In generations has Wall Street absorbed the number of body blows it took today.
The world has gone mad and the system is broken.
The American financial system is rocked to its foundation as top Wall Street institutions topple under a mountain of debt.
Bailed out by the taxpayers.
It's pretty clear they cannot be trusted.
Money first go.
He said, your problem is that you're trying to understand this as an economic story. Once you look at it as a crime story,
You'll get it.
The Fed is losing control once again. In just a couple of days, the U.S. Federal Reserve has pumped out $125 billion and handed that money over to commercial banks once again.
Money first go.
Take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed
And believe whatever you want to believe.
You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland.
Stay in Wonderland.
And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
On air. All right, you're live.
What is up, freaks? Welcome to this live edition of Rabbit Hole Recap. What's going on, Matt?
Live?
Are we live? I don't know. Saying please stand by. That's what I'm saying. Can you
I don't
freaks
see
hear
us
us?
live.
Oh, there we go.
We're live. There we go.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a lag on the stream, Matt. So if you're watching it while we're doing this, don't get confused. Matt almost missed the beginning of this because he ran to go get a bottle of whiskey. He's drinking at 11 a.m. on a Monday. I'm going to refrain. I'm drinking coffee because my in-laws would look at me weird if I started drinking whiskey this early, especially after.
Video got me going.
Yeah. No, it was a good pump-up video. Good music. What a day. We're here. Obviously, the halving is upon us. Looking at Clark Moody's dashboard, we are exactly according to his node. Looking for it. 28 blocks away. Going to check my node. Just double check that, and we are 28 blocks away on my node as well. So getting close. The block subsidy, is about to get cut from 12.5 Bitcoin per block to 6.25. These halving events produce a lot of energy and excitement within the Bitcoin community. That's why we're here today. We are going to do what we usually do on Rabbit Hole, recap when we do them live, which is we got 2 topics we want to talk about, and we're going to open up to Q&A. Matt sent a tweet out earlier, and we've got a bunch of questions that we're going to respond to. But first on the list is our boy Paul. Our boy Paul out there pumping the corn this morning, Matt. What did you think? 1% to 2% of his assets are in there. We got a lot to talk about with our boy Paul. We got some advice for him too.
Paul Tudor Jones, as the freaks heard last week, announced that he had price exposure to Bitcoin in the form of futures. It's not your keys, not your coins, Paul. He doesn't actually own any Bitcoin, even though he thinks he does. But today he was on CNBC, and dude, it was just pure bull fuel, absolutely insane. He went through just the classic narratives, right? Store of value, the world's going digital, great monetary inflation, and just the adoption idea, right? Just the simple idea that you have a scarce asset like Bitcoin. He said 55 million to 75 million people own Bitcoin. I think it's way less. As we said, he doesn't even own Bitcoin. So I'm saying 20, 30 million tops is what I would think. And he said, as more people adopt it, the price should go up. And I think that's been my thesis for a bit now. It's just too simple for some people.
Yeah, it goes back to the Satoshi quote. You might want to get some just in case it catches on. It seems like Paul is attempting to do that. Yeah, he's technically not doing that because he only has exposure in the futures markets. But Paul, if you're listening to this, I know you're watching this live stream from your office. Can we get you to buy some actual Bitcoin and send it to an address that you custody? This is important for this revolution. And if you're going to hop on board, you might as well do it correctly. Do it right or don't do it at all. That's it's the mantra. But another thing he said during that, which stuck out to me, is 1% to 2% of your portfolio, but I think it's going to be the best performing asset in my portfolio. So he's extremely bullish on the future prospects of Bitcoin's price appreciation.
Paul, we want you to buy your Bitcoin without KYC. We want you to send it to keys you control using your own full node. And we want you to make every spend a coin join. It's going to take you some time to get there, though, I think.
Yeah. Hey, if you need somebody to help you, if you need an Uncle Jim or maybe 2 Uncle Jims, you got us. You can always hit us up, Paul. The other thing we wanted to talk about before we jump into the Q&A section is what I wrote about in the Bent this morning, and I think it went a little underscored over the weekend as everybody was hyped up for the approaching halving, is the fact that the Trump administration and big chip manufacturers here in the United States are beginning to push the conversation that we need to get a chip fabrication factory on U.S. soil, particularly fabs that produce chips that are less than 10 nanometers, which are the highest caliber chips on the market in the world today. We do have factories on U.S. soil currently. There's one, Samsung has one in Texas. I believe there's another in Washington State, but they do not produce the highest level of chip that is on the market right now. And as geopolitical tensions continue to rise between the East and the West, I think the Trump administration and business interest here in the States are beginning to realize that they should probably secure the supply chain for the tech sector, specifically the chips that make the tech sector go round. If tensions continue to rise, we could find ourselves in a weird situation where we don't have access to the highest end technology and chips on the market, which could put us at a severe disadvantage as a country. And this is good for Bitcoin because this is one thing I talk about a lot on this podcast and in the newsletter, is that my biggest worry for Bitcoin in the long run is the centralization of these of the chip production of the ASICs, of the hash SHA-256 ASICs that make mining go round. If you only have 2 fab plants in TSMC and Samsung's plant, TSMC's in Taiwan, Samsung's in South Korea, if they're the only ones producing the ASICs that make Bitcoin work, it's a huge centralizing factor. So if we're able to get some of that production over here on U.S. soil, that is really good for Bitcoin in the future.
But just to be clear here, it's an improvement that it's manufactured in America, but it would be the same companies involved pretty much, right?
Yes, or in the article. So yeah, the U.S. government's talking about TSMC and Samsung, who have control of the factories in Taiwan and South Korea. Samsung has the one in Texas. TSMC is talking with the Trump administration about building one here in the States, but then Intel sort of comes into play, and they're trying to get their foot in the door here too, and they could potentially have control over a fab plant. At least that's what I got from the article that came out in the Journal over the weekend. So hopefully Intel gets involved, but yeah, it could be Samsung and TSMC bringing those operations over here.
Awesome, but good. It's good to see regardless, right? We want to see more localized manufacturing in general, not just with ASICs, just with everything. I think would be a net benefit.
Matt, did you see we got a comment as a coordinated stack in 15 minutes? I'm surprised this is the first live episode where you haven't demanded everybody pull out their phone and stack on air.
No, I did. I did at during Bitcoin 2019 at the local top. I obviously not people didn't listen to me. Otherwise, it would have been the local top. That would have happened a little bit later. But we did try that last time. I can't see the Periscope comments. I've been trying to load it.
I'm seeing them flow in. I'm seeing them flow in. One said we need a coordinated stack in 15 minutes. It's 11:17 where I am. So at 11:32, let's do a coordinated stack.
That works for me. I just wanted to say a couple of things here before we go into Q&A. Raspberry Blitz got updated. This update brings Join Market. It's a pretty huge update. So check that out if you're a Raspberry Blitz user. It's a full node, fantastic full node, fully open source. The other thing I wanted to say is to the listeners here who don't know who we are, I'm Matt Odell. This is Marty Bent. We have a podcast called Tales from the Crypt that you can find in your favorite podcast app. So give us a search, and hopefully you'll join us for future episodes. And then the other thing is no one should be using BitPay. Don't use BitPay. You should use BTC Pay Server. It's an open source alternative to BitPay where you have no trusted third parties involved at all. You can host it yourself, and you don't have to pay anyone a fee as a result.
Thanks for getting the TFTC shill in. I'm terrible at that. That's why you're on board here, Matt. And agreed. Been a BTC server user for a year now. I think actually almost a year since we launched the site with that's compatible with BTC Pay Server. Huge fan. It just works. The sats stream straight to my hardware wallet, and it makes me feel more comfortable as a user. And there's no middleman. It's just me, developer I'm working with, and the software that BTC Pay Server has provided. And we've talked about this on a couple episodes ago. They're one of the first movers to enable PayJoin in their software. So that makes the ability to automatically coin join when you interact with the TFTC store possible. And so we've enabled that. Matt, actually, maybe we should mention this because we were very confused. We're like, is it enabled? Is it not? They've enabled it in the QR code, so you don't have to. It's automatically works.
Yeah, if you have a compatible wallet, it'll automatically pick up the PayJoin support. Basically, PayJoin is where the sender and the receiver are participating in a coin join transaction, and it helps the privacy of everyone that uses Bitcoin because it looks like a normal transaction, but you can assume that all the inputs belong to the same user. And not only does BTC Pay have PayJoin support, they also have Lightning support. There's no way BitPay has Lightning support. I don't even know. Do they even have SegWit support yet? I don't even know. Doesn't matter because no one should be using it.
Maybe that's a good segue into one of the first questions we got. It was about Lightning. So it's a 3-part question by @BitBreather. As the world gets more and more dystopian by the hour, do you fear some kind of retaliation from governments to Bitcoin educators like yourselves, China style? I mean, is it really true that you have to have sexual dysfunction to work at Chainalysis? That's not nice, BitBreather. And has Lightning Network failed, or does it need time? I'll go first. The first point, potentially, but who cares? I believe that Bitcoin is imperative for the future, and I believe that free speech should exist and should persist within the US particularly. So I will keep talking about Bitcoin and using Bitcoin because I believe in it, and I want it to exist in the future for my child and future children to come after him. About the chain houses company, hey, come on. Let's be bigger. Let's be bigger than that. All right. Yes, they're trying to surveil all block Bitcoin users, but we don't have to throw sexual dysfunction jokes at them. Hey, maybe some of them are sexually incompetent, but you can't paint a broad brush across all of chain analysis companies. You know, it's the same thing with Bitcoiners. You can't say Bitcoiners are all or nothing, you know. And then has Lightning Network failed or needs time? No, I don't think it's failed. It works. I use it pretty consistently. I use it at least 3 or 4 times a week. I use it every day if you consider the fact that we receive transactions on our site every day via the Lightning Network. And I've had a lot of people reach out to me, and their first usage of the Lightning Network has been purchases of that BTC Pay Server hat that you're wearing, Matt. And they've said it's magical. Does it need time? Yes, it's going to take a lot more time. All this is going to take time.
What did you say to the chain analysis employees in the event? You said that what are they doing with their lives?
I asked them, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah. I didn't call them sexually incompetent, though.
That's true. You know, assholes are good at sex too. It's not like, yeah, I mean, to the first question, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it depends where you live. It's different governments are going to have different responses here. You know, hopefully I don't end up being a target, right? Like that's what I'm hoping for, but it is definitely a distinct possibility. And if that's the case, then I hope like all the education that we've been doing becomes worth it. You know, that's the risk. And I think that's the benefit is education. So hopefully we'll have more educated Bitcoin stakeholders, and that will help everyone as a whole.
Yes. So Paul, reach out. We need you to get educated.
So what was the last question about Lightning?
Has it failed or does it need time?
No, it's, you know, I mean, I wouldn't say it succeeded, but I think it's a little ahead of the game to say that it failed. We see it growing all the time. You know, multi-path payments or multi-part payments, whatever the different teams want to call them, just got merged into the big implementations. And I think that's a massive improvement in terms of both privacy and just routing capacity, because you don't need to have all your liquidity in a single channel. And for active surveillance, like if you're going to spy on Lightning transactions, you're going to need more nodes. You're going to have to be running more nodes with more liquidity locked up in order to do the same kind of surveillance you can do without multipath payments. So that alone is a major improvement. And then the second thing is, like, we really haven't seen fee pressure increase too much. Like recently, it's been a little bit pumpy, a little bit frothy, but if no one has an incentive to move on to Lightning because of lack of high fees, then obviously you're not going to see major buy-in by the user base.
Yeah. Again, this is all going to take time as we approach block 630,000. Just realize we're still very early in this game. We're about to finish Bitcoin's third mining epoch. So there's going to be many more after it, many more halvings to come in the future. If you're watching the stream right now and throwing question at us, you are early. Next question from the Twitter thread. I'm pulling these from the Twitter thread just because there's a bunch there and they're going to stay there. They're not just going to fly up the screen. This is a good one for you, Matt. I know you made a few high time preference purchases during the last bull market. What high time preference purchase will you make when the Mare multiple goes above 3 or 4?
It's not a high time preference purchase, but I'm going to do a low time preference purchase of land for sure. I just want a lot of land. I think that would be fucking fantastic. In terms of high time preference, I recently bought a VR headset. That's not in 4 years, but that is, you know, right now. Whiskey is like a major high time preference for me. Bitcoin hardware, love my Bitcoin hardware. There's going to be a lot of high time preference purchases. The key is to try and minimize them. Let's be honest with ourselves. Our life is dominated by high time preference purchases. How about you, Marty?
I too am going to buy land, which is low time preference. I know. Yeah. I got to buy a car at some point soon. That's considered high time preference by many.
It depends what kind of car you buy. Like if you buy an old beater, then it's not a high time preference. But if you buy like a Lambo, then it is.
Certainly not buying a Lambo. I don't think you can fit car seats in Lambos. So I will be buying. I'm a used car at some point in the future. But like if Bitcoin goes crazy, I don't plan on like making insane purchases outside of land. And at that point, I don't even know if I'd use Bitcoin at all. Hopefully, I have enough fiat saved up to make that purchase. And who knows, if the economy keeps going the way it goes, we may have some dirt cheap land out there, which is certainly a possibility.
Can I pick the next question?
Yes, you can, sir.
What are you most excited about that's coming to Bitcoin in the next 4 years that you're aware of?
I mean, shameless shill here, but I'm very excited for what we're doing at Great American Mining and the prospects of further distributing Bitcoin hash rate specifically, and actually getting more industries entrenched with the Bitcoin network, specifically oil and gas. Beyond the self shill there, I think, again, actually it's something I want to do more research on. Obviously, I write the Bent every day, and it's just like a quick thought, but I want to do some sitting down and thinking about my idea on Jevons paradox being applied to Bitcoin UTXOs. So if we get things like Schnorr, Taproot, Musig, and Miniscript, and we're able to do all that, does my thesis that those improvements create more utility and efficiency for Bitcoin UTXO actually, is that actually true? So seeing those things like Schnorr and Taproot get implemented, BIP 119, check template verify, get implemented. If they do they provide more utility for a Bitcoin UTXO, and does that in fact create more efficiency and then drive more usage, creating a fee market in the long term? That's one thing I'm excited to see play out or not play out.
I tend to agree with you. I think when you start extrapolating some of the potential of these improvements, stuff like Schnorr, Taproot, hopefully
DLCs.
cross input signature aggregation, and then you combine that with stuff like Lightning, it quickly enters like it's hard to fathom what the implications are and like how that works out. Like even I try and think about it, but I bet you we get completely caught off guard on what a lot of those implications are to the better is hopefully is what I think. On the short term, I think user-friendly multi-sig that doesn't rely on a trusted cosigner, so you can use it with your own node and you can pick who controls the keys, whether that's you or if you include family members or maybe lawyers, stuff like that. I think that will go a long way to just improving the general UX around Bitcoin. And then obviously, I mean, the freaks, our listeners, they know, like, I would really like to see more user-friendly privacy come to Bitcoin. And I think that we see a lot of teams working on a lot more excitement happening around it than we did even just like 2 years ago. So I'm hoping that trend continues, because I think it's going to be a very important fundamental for Bitcoin going forward, especially because it looks like cash restrictions worldwide are going to increase. So with the restrictions in cash, people are going to need a private alternative. Otherwise, all of our transactions are going to be tracked. I mean, they all are being tracked right now, except for cash. So it becomes extra important.
Agreed there. Shout out to at JGETBTC. That's 2 T's. JGETTBTC for that question. Next question comes from our friend Brain Harrington at Brain Harrington. What can non-technical iPhone cash appers who have been around for a few years do to up their self-sovereignty and continue to up their Bitcoin game? I'll go first with one suggestion. If you're an iPhone user, simply download Green Wallet and play around with that. Try to move your Bitcoin a little bit at first, and then more as you get more comfortable from the Cash App to Bitcoin Green, just to take a little bit of sovereignty back from the exchange.
Disclosure: Cash App is a sponsor of our podcast. The first step, as Marty said, is like taking control of your keys. Green Wallet is very useful on mobile and iPhone. Samurai is great on Android. So that's the first step. Then you want to graduate to running your own node as well. KYC is if you buy on Cash App or any of these other regulated entities, like you're linked with your KYC data, that your address, your name, all of this information is linked to that data. And then it's linked to your Bitcoin withdrawal addresses when you withdraw your Bitcoin. And this goes the same if you use one of these regulated lenders or something like that, and you send Bitcoin into their services. All of a sudden, your deposit address is linked to the KYC that you did with them there. So it's really important to realize what information you're leaking there, and using tools available to you, specifically in this case, CoinJoin. And our favorite implementation on the podcast is Samurai Wallet Whirlpool, to try and break those links. But ideally, you just want to avoid KYC altogether. So there's two services, Bisq and HODL HODL, which allow you to buy Bitcoin without KYC. If you use a bank transfer, you're still giving that information to the other participant in that bank transfer. So keep that in mind. Bisq had an amazing ad run on this live stream earlier, which got me super pumped up. So you can go check out that video on their website.
Excuse me, Matt. I hate to interrupt, but we got to do our stack right now. It's been 15 minutes.
Okay.
As you get into that diatribe, I just stacked.
And then the other thing is I stacked. The other thing is you have to. There's a lot of resources at btcprivacy.org, curated by our buddy at 6102 Bitcoin on Twitter. So follow him on Twitter and go check out those resources and educate yourself, because Bitcoin is not private by default, and you're leaking way more information than you think you are when you use it.
And if you freaks haven't done so already, go check out the latest report from Delphi, where Matt wrote a 3-page part on how to attain privacy in Bitcoin. And I really liked what you wrote in there. Like, it is a huge, people think that Bitcoin's private by default, and it is not. And we got to work to educate people to make it more well known that that is not the case. And you actually have to work, at least at this given point in time, to achieve better privacy on the Bitcoin network.
Yeah, that report hasn't dropped yet. It's getting dropped at block 630,000 at the halving block. So stay tuned for it later today. And it will be freely available to the public, but it's also going to get emailed directly to all of your favorite compliance bros. So hopefully we can red pill a few of them.
Hey, thank you for doing Satoshi's work there.
And shout out to Delphi, because the report, I think people are going to really like the report. They did a really good job with it.
Shout out to Delphi. Keep crushing it, boys, and any ladies that work there. What do you got? You want to pick the next question? You want me to go? I got a couple lined up here.
Yeah, go. Shoot.
Okay. Even with all the this is from user at sin_taxes. Even with all the congestion the last few days, the mempool cleared last night, and compared to 2017 fees, 20 cents was getting you in the next block. Not really a question. Just a good point to make. All right. Prediction on how much you think hash rate will drop. Also, what percentage of hash rate do you think relies on chips from Chinese manufacturing? Bullish exclamation point. That was just an imperative statement at the end there. That's from Proving Work. How much hash rate will drop? I saw a report that I think from the block, they guesstimated that 25% of hash rate was from S9s, depending on how many of those S9s are being run on energy prices that are above 3 cents a kilowatt hour, I would say. You could see a large percentage of those drop off the network. So of 25%, I don't know. Prices are hovering around 9,000 right now. So a lot of people a couple weeks ago were predicting like a 40 to 60% drop. And that was when prices were like in the $5,000 range.
60% less than they are today.
Yeah. So it's all dynamic. Depends on your price of energy, the price of Bitcoin at any given point in time. And I think we're gonna be surprised to the downside. I don't think hash rate is gonna fall as much as many people think. What percentage of hash rate do you think relies on chips from Chinese manufacturing? I mean, the foundries we already talked about are in Taiwan and South Korea. But the
100%, right?
The companies that actually make the miners, yeah, 100%. Or well, no, Bitfury is not in China.
They're in like Georgia, right?
Yeah, but their chips aren't really that good. And I think there's other people working on ASICs in North America, but how popular they are is there's a lot of white label ASICs too, where they're not really Bitcoin specific, but you use them for Hashcash SHA-256.
I just want to point out
they're not as popular either.
I just want to point out that anyone who implies that there's like a break-even price for Bitcoin miners, which below that price, like they become unprofitable, is signaling that they do not understand mining whatsoever. Because all these miners have different fixed costs and different variable costs, and you can't speculate and do like you can't generalize all of their costs. There's so many different things at play based on where they're located, how much their rent is, where they're getting their energy from, and what the cost of the energy is. All these things factor into it. So some miners will go unprofitable, and some miners will pick up the slack and maintain profitability and excel in this situation. And it's just, that's what it comes down to. It's just a big game.
Yeah, I saw a very misinformed thread this morning saying that the production cost of all miners per Bitcoin was going to go up to $14,000 today. That did not make much sense to me. Somebody does not understand the variables that go into production cost of mining a Bitcoin. Just wanted to throw that out there. Let's see if we get a question.
Wait, before we go to the next question, it appears we have 10 minutes. What time do we think the halving is going to happen? It's going to happen in about 5 hours, 4 hours?
We are 26 blocks, 260 minutes. I don't know what it's coming in at right now.
I'm so bummed that I'm not celebrating this halving with drinks with Bitcoiners. It's just like it was the timeline that could have been,
Yeah,
we were supposed to be in the Soho forum,
right? We were. So right now I would estimate like 4 hours, so probably around 3:30 to 3:45 Eastern, potentially. Who knows? Depends on what hash rate does between now and then. But we shall see. Mid-afternoon, it seems right now. Yeah, it's and that's like one thing I tweeted out over the weekend. Like, we do all this celebrating, we're doing this live stream now, and everybody's freaking out. But the Bitcoin network, it literally just gets to block 630,000. The subsidy changes from 12.5 Bitcoin from 1,250,000,000 Satoshis to 625 million Satoshis, and miners start mining block 630,000 in one, and the network just keeps chugging along.
That's what people don't realize. The most bullish aspect of the halving is that it's just a complete non-event. And like in terms of the actual protocol, like so many people expect it to create like a death spiral or have all these issues or maybe not happen, that when it just happens uneventfully, it just continues the Lindy effect that is Bitcoin. That is the bullish aspect of it. But now as like the Bitcoin community has grown, as more and more people buy Bitcoin, use Bitcoin, learn about Bitcoin, and we start entering the tens of millions of people that own Bitcoin, it's pretty crazy as a holiday. It almost feels like a New Year's, but a New Year's where there's no fucking time zones, like where everyone celebrates it on the same exact time zone, and that's block height. And the consensus is distributed proof of work. Like that is fucking crazy, right? Like that's cheers to that.
Cheers to that, right? Shout out to all you freaks in parts of the world where it's the middle of the night who will be up waiting for this. Shout out to you guys. That's it's not like New Year's Eve where you see fireworks going off in Australia and then going across the world throughout the day until it finally gets to your time zone. Like you mentioned, it's block height, and that's again like something fundamentally that is changing our world, is organizing and coordinating around block heights. Which is something that not many people have really taken home yet in their heads. All right, Matt, how bullish are you, and why are you not more bullish?
I love this question.
Shout out Sats for Beanie.
I get more bullish every day. I don't know. It's a physics is involved or something like that. You can't be more bullish than I am. I'm just always peak bullish.
Matt's always peaking when you see him. Every moment he's peaking in bullishness.
No, I guess there's short-term volatility. It's like Bitcoin, but it trends up over time.
Okay.
And then that's I'm bullish on Bitcoiners. Every time all the time I spend with Bitcoiners gets me more and more bullish every day. Bitcoiners get shit done. And the whole open source ecosystem, this idea of free open source software that everyone contributes to, that everyone can fork and make their own, and that everyone can read is just amazing. It's just absolutely powerful. And it's all about empowering the individual so that individual can take personal responsibility. And I think there's few things that are more powerful than that in this world.
Agreed 100%. All there. Great question to end it on from our boy Tactical Minivan. What would you have done differently knowing what you know now?
I think that was a question for Satoshi, because the other guy asked, if you could talk to Satoshi, what would you ask them? Right?
Oh, yeah, it was. Satoshi. All right. So it's okay. I didn't see that thread.
If you could talk to Satoshi anonymously, what would you ask them?
What would you ask them? Ooh, this is from Status Quant, QUONT. Did you really know what you were unleashing? Like, did Satoshi really know what he, she, or it was unleashing on the world? Like, did they know the secondary and tertiary effects Bitcoin, the network, would have on the outside world? Again, getting back to what we're doing in mining, like, could he foresee that the chips would progress from CPU, GPU, FPGAs to ASICs, and then be able to sort of help industries outside of Bitcoin create efficiencies? Like, could somebody have that amount of prescience? I don't know. I don't think so. And if so, we may be dealing with something beyond human.
I mean, I would ask them two things. I would say, what's the deal with the keys? Like, what's the plan of action there? Do you intend to dump a large amount of Bitcoin? Did you burn them? And then the second thing is, why the fuck are you talking to me? Just go, this is too much of a risk. Don't do this.
Well, the assumption is that it would just be like you two meeting.
Super secure anonymous chat. Maybe Satoshi invented that too.
That's one of my favorite Satoshi theories, though, is that his coins, they will be used after Bitcoin hits a certain market cap. He's going to become like a Mechanical Turk-like figure where he just contracts work out to individuals throughout the world and pays them in Bitcoin, like specifically in people living in countries that have despotic leaders and are under fascist regimes. He can sort of help them find freedom by paying them to create things that enable freedom within their country. Probably
I
not
like the idea
happen.
of like a calculated burn too. Like, you just wait till like a pivotal moment right before the next halving or something, or like major governments are defaulting and you just like burn a huge amount of the supply. I mean, I wonder if the question implies that Satoshi would actually tell us the truth. Like, I feel like it'd be like a little bit coded. I don't know.
Yeah. Satoshi, if you're listening, stay anonymous. Thank you.
Thank you. If you're
you.
listening, thank you.
And I went quick, dude. We're coming up to 11:45 here.
Are we going to do anything else for the halving today?
We're doing something value of Bitcoin tomorrow. I've got like a mining panel of value of Bitcoin later today.
I'm joining you for the value of Bitcoin thing tomorrow.
Pretty sure. If you want to, we can.
Cool.
We can.
I'm down. I'm down. Check that out, freaks. We do our scheduling live on air.
Yeah. This is the structured chaos that is TFTC. Thank you guys.
I think we'll probably figure out another stream maybe at some point today. Maybe I'll figure out something.
I'm down. I got my outside live stream set up. So I just got to hit a button and I'm here. Shout out to you freaks for tuning in. Shout out to Bitcoin Magazine for having us. We are currently, let me pull this up real quick, 26 blocks away still. So shout out to you Bitcoiners out there. Hope you had a good third Bitcoin mining epoch. And I hope the fourth brings you many, many fruitful endeavors.
Stay humble, stack sats. Love you all. Cheers.
Peace and love. I think